In this summary, we begin to learn about Dr. Masakazu Fujii, physician, his area of mastery, orthopedic surgery. In Chapter 5 of Hiroshima by John Hersey, we begin to learn a little bit more about Dr. Fujii and his family and his life, not only post-atomic bomb, but post-war completely. During the chapter, we begin to learn a little bit more about his 5 children, which all seem to follow their father's footsteps in some way or another. Let's begin with the oldest and the youngest. These were Chayeko and Mayeko. These, although they did not go into the profession of a doctor, they married doctors. With the sons, we start from oldest to youngest. We have Dr. Masatashi, who not only inherited his father's hospital, but his practice as well. We go to the second oldest, which is Dr. Kaiji. Although he didn't become a doctor, he became an x-ray technician to follow some way in his father's footsteps. Then we go to the youngest of the boys, Dr. Shigai Yuki. He is still studying, but works at Nihon University Hospital in Tokyo. Later in the book, we start to find out that Dr. Fujii is not suffering any effects of the radiation, no symptoms whatsoever. So, all he does in his spare time and his work area is to treat his patients, but he promised himself he would never try to work too much. By not working too much, he started to use his money to buy many things. So, with that, he bought a dance floor in his home, a photography darkroom, and a sand bunker. Not only did he do many things in his country to help the people of the atomic bomb, he also went on the expedition to go to America. Many of you guys have learned about the Hiroshima maidens, many young ladies that were affected by the atomic bomb, and their faces and their bodies were severely damaged by the atomic bomb's first strike. So, when the Hiroshima maidens went off, they went with 2 surgeons from Japan. But when one of those surgeons had to leave, Dr. Fujii replaced one of them. He explains in the book that he not only went as a supervisor to the Hiroshima maidens' procedures, he went to be a caring father figure for them not to be scared over in America. 10 months later, after leaving America, and 9 years after that, his family starts noting that he's drifting away, becoming more stubborn, and a little bit more rigid. This goes so far as to him buying a 3-story house just for himself. It is now New Year's Eve, 1963. His family starts to host a party, and before midnight, Dr. Fujii leaves. The next morning, no one hears of Dr. Fujii. While the family hosted a party the other night, he unexpectedly left, and when he left, the family started talking, and they said they would have brunch in the morning. This is when nobody hears from him. So, one of his daughters sends one of their grandchildren over to check on him. But there's no response at the door. So, therefore, the child gets a ladder and tries to put it up as close to the window as he can. Once he does this, they smell gas. Then, they see Dr. Fujii collapse on the floor. Once they break into his room, basically, his children, which are all doctors, try to stabilize him as best as they can. But they must wait till the end of the holidays to get an ambulance out to their house. All seems well at the hospital, till it turns for the worst. January 25th, Dr. Fujii becomes a vegetable. In the terms of vegetable means that he is not able to move. Although in the book it does say towards the end of the book that he could feel discomfort and comfort, but he still could not move. He was like this for the last 11 years of his life. Autopsy showed that not only did his brain have an atrophied, his intestines were enlarged, but that he had cancer in his liver. Disputes over property of Dr. Fujii spread throughout the family, and they began to fight. His family started to drift apart. So, with all this, his family drifted apart, and they began no longer to speak with each other. So, basically, a full summary of the book is that we learn a little bit more about his life. We learn about all the things that he did as his profession as a surgeon, and all that happened until his death. So, Dr. Fujii, unknown date of birth, till January 12, 1973.